There was a time when seeing an Eddie Stobart truck felt like spotting a national treasure. The red and green paint, the names on the cabs, the pride of British roads. But today, that pride is hanging by a thread. Insiders say WS Transportation is taking over its contracts and depots, and that the company once loved across the country could vanish within months. What happened to Britain's most iconic trucking name? Eddie Stobart began small and simple. Hard-working men, local customers, honest work. The trucks were practical and tough and painted in colors people remembered. That livery became shorthand for reliability. If a Stobart truck rolled in, stock hit the shelves. If it didn't, people noticed. The company grew because it did the basics well and did them in public. Drivers were visible spokespeople for the brand. They kept the schedules, fixed the breakdowns, and learned the routes like maps in their heads. The public learned the names of the rigs, kids collected stickers, fleet spotters tracked the numbers. That human loop, drivers, communities, fans, was the brand's true asset. Growth brought confidence. Stobart branched into rail, ports, and airports. It listed on the market. At first, it felt like the little company had earned its place on a bigger stage. But as the business expanded, the mechanics of growth started to nudge culture aside. Boards, audits, and investors don't have the same instinct as depot managers. You measure a logistics company by margins and assets, not by the smell of diesel in a cafe or the number of drivers who can fix a gearbox at the midnight. Private equity and corporate deals began to rewire the business. Ownership changed hands, pieces were carved off, divisions sold and rebranded. With each deal, the cozy idea of a family-run haulier faded. Shareholder demands and short-term returns started to shape decisions. Fleets were optimized, routes consolidated, and fixed costs trimmed. That's not unusual in business. It's how scale is built. But when you trim the edges of something that lives off public affection, you risk taking the heart with it. Numbers began to tell a different story. Profits flickered, debt levels rose. The company that had once been known for dependability disclosed accounting irregularities and surprise losses. Headlines about missing figures and suspended trading didn't just hit the balance sheet, they hit the myth. Customers glanced at suppliers differently when the phrase accounting issues showed up next to the name that used to mean steady and safe. Behind the scenes, managers fought fires while drivers carried loads. The disconnect between boardroom accounting and yard-level realities widened. The trucks kept running, but their look changed. New owners repainted cabs, phased out the old livery, and focused on standardization. For the public, the red and green rigs that had been photographed on bridges and in playground scrapbooks were no longer as common. The fan culture that had once cheered numbers and names softened. For drivers who'd once taken pride in driving a recognizable symbol of British haulage, the change felt like a small death. The daily handshake and the waveback became rarer as fleets became anonymous and contracts became king. Operational changes followed. KPIs, telematics, route optimization, and centralized dispatch replaced a lot of the old freedoms. That's efficiency. It also reduces the things that made the job human. Drivers found themselves tracked, timed, and measured in ways that desk managers loved. It improves margins. It strips intimacy. The cultural cost isn't on a spreadsheet, but it's real. Fewer long-serving depots, fewer named rigs, fewer local faces who knew the back lanes and the cafe owners by name. At the same time, the company's public image warped. PR and spin replaced the organic affection that once came free. Brand licensing deals and retail tie-ins put the Stobart badge on things that had nothing to do with haulage. The logo became a commodity you could sell on a mug. Licensing wasn't inherently evil, but when a brand's public currency is nostalgia, monetizing that nostalgia without protecting the thing that created it risks turning your legend into wallpaper. Drivers felt the squeeze on two fronts. First, the human pride that came from representing a beloved company faded. Second, pay and conditions tightened as corporate owners chased thin margins. Temporary contracts, subcontracting, and a focus on lowest cost providers hollowed out loyalty. You can keep a fleet moving on spreadsheets, but you can't buy the local knowledge and stubborn ownership that once kept trucks running through strikes, floods, and snow without a premium. The market landscape shifted too. New global logistics players, consolidation, and the race for scale meant smaller national legends were swallowed or repurposed. Buyers saw a brand, a customer list, and assets, not a story on the A1. Each transaction prioritized liquidity and short-term returns over heritage. Once your brand becomes a line item, decisions happen in rooms far from the yard. The people who bore the loss weren't the executives, they were the drivers, warehouse hands, and local suppliers whose livelihoods were tied to the company's identity. The operational changes had side effects that the public noticed when they went looking. Delivery reliability might not have collapsed, but the warmth around the brand did. Spotters took fewer photos. Social media lost its gloss. The wave back wasn't as sure as it once was. Fans who built communities around spotting and cataloging rigs felt their hobby evaporate. For many, the problem wasn't just a truck repainted, it was a slow, corporate erasure of something they'd loved. The narrative shifts into reputation damage, and reputations are fragile. One accounting scandal or a badly handled sale can erode what years built. Trust takes decades, it vanishes overnight. Suppliers get nervous, customers hedge, and the public attention you once enjoyed becomes scrutiny. The ghost of the old firm lingers in forums and nostalgic posts, but day-to-day reality is now about margins, audits, and corporate alignment with a parent company's strategy. The truck visuals remained, but the meaning attached to them has been leased out to the balance sheet. By the time the 2020s rolled around, Eddie Stobart had become a ghost of itself. The name still moved freight, but the spirit that built it had been hollowed out. What once stood for British pride and precision was now buried under corporate layers, endless restructures, and a culture that forgot what made it great. The trucks still ran, but they ran under different rules: faster, colder, quieter. Old drivers say you can feel it the moment you walk through a Stobart yard now. The chatter's gone, the laughter, the ribbing, the sense that everyone belonged to something special. All of it has been replaced by management jargon and dashboards full of KPIs. The pride that once came free with the uniform is now buried under memos about productivity. The new generation doesn't even wave anymore. Once it was a brotherhood. A red and green truck meant more than just a job, it meant identity. Drivers cleaned their cabs till the metal shone, fans lined bridges to wave at convoys, and the public smiled when they saw that familiar livery. But today, the name sits inside a bigger machine. It's owned, managed, and traded by holding companies who see trucks as numbers and names as assets. When the Kalina Group took over, many hoped for stability, a return to form, but what came instead was efficiency. Fewer sites, tighter schedules, less heart. The famous liveries are being replaced or repainted, and many of the smaller depots that once made Stobart feel local have been absorbed or shut down. The brand survives, technically, but the company that built it, that's gone. And now, the news from inside is even darker. According to drivers and staff still in the yards, WS Transportation, a rival started by former Stobart executives, is now taking over routes, contracts, and entire sites once operated by Eddie Stobart. One message from a current employee put it bluntly: Stobart's may be history in the next few months. It's not just talk. WS is expanding fast, winning business once locked under the Stobart name, hiring ex-staff, and moving into old depots that used to wear the green and red. It's a strange twist of fate. The company once known for loyalty now watching its legacy carried off by its own people. Drivers who grew up dreaming of joining Stobart now wear WS badges on their sleeves. The same routes, the same customers, the same roads, but different logos on the doors. What used to be rivalry has become replacement. For the men still inside, it's a slow-motion collapse. Some say the company has become a name without a heartbeat. The old managers who believed in pride and presentation have gone. The fans have drifted away. Even the famous girls' names on the trucks, a touch that made each vehicle personal, have largely disappeared. What remains feels procedural. Everything's done by app, tracked by satellite, and approved by someone in an office miles from the road. The numbers may still look stable, but morale is in free fall. The work still gets done, the deliveries still make it, but there's no fire left in the job. The wave from the cab that once made kids light up on motorway bridges has turned into a tired glance through tinted glass. Stobart trucks now blend in with the rest. No one looks twice. For the fans who spent years photographing, spotting, and collecting, this decline hits like a personal loss. They've watched their favorite fleet dissolve piece by piece, from the accounting scandals to the endless ownership changes, and now to the quiet takeover happening in plain sight. There's no press release, no headline farewell. Just fewer Stobart logos every month and more blue and white WS trucks filling the gap. What's left of Eddie Stobart today is little more than branding, a decal on the side of a business that no longer belongs to the people who built it. The legacy has been repackaged, redistributed, and slowly replaced by modern logistics efficiency. It's clean, it's profitable, it's practical, but it isn't Stobart. Maybe that's the saddest part. The company didn't die in a crash or a scandal. It faded quietly, replaced by a competitor that understood what Stobart forgot. Pride doesn't scale, and loyalty can't be bought back once it's gone. If the insiders are right, the name that once painted Britain's roads red and green could vanish altogether before the year's out. And when it does, it won't go out with fanfare, just silence. A legacy swallowed by spreadsheets. The ghost of Eddie Stobart will still haunt the highways for years to come. Not as a company, but as a memory. A memory of when trucking meant pride, not policy.